Hey there, it's Nathan, the TransMidwife again. This video is a follow-on from the Trans 101 video, so if you haven't seen that, please just go give it a watch. This is specifically about pronouns in response to some really good questions that I had from the secret community for midwives in the making group when I opened the floor to them, and it seemed like pronouns was a sticking point for a lot of people, and it seemed like they were quite anxious about it, so we'll talk through it now. So I've got a few questions that I'm going to go through, but firstly just remind ourselves pronouns are the she, her, he, him, they, them. So, and then there are some other ones, which, excuse me, I've had tea, not tea stabbed in my bum, I mean tea, you know, drinking tea. Yeah, so yeah, just remind ourselves of that. And there are other pronouns that some people use, things like Z-I-R, zir, things like that. Have a look up of different pronouns if you are interested. So again, pronouns are what people say they are, and that's an important point. There are a small part of the LGBTQ plus community who use pronouns that we might not expect to align with their identified gender. So, for example, there are some lesbian women who choose to use he, him pronouns, but they do not identify as transmasculine in any way. And that is their choice. It's what makes them feel comfortable. And you do not need to question people's pronouns. You just say, once you've been told what they are, really try and remember to use them. So, the first thing I want to cover is, what do you do when you're trying and you mess up? Okay, so you really care about trans people and supporting them. You try to remember someone's pronouns and you make a mistake. For example, talking to me, you accidentally say she. What is the best approach, and this is pretty universal in the trans community, is just say she, oh sorry, he, and just correct yourself and then move on. We find it's quite embarrassing, and it turns the spotlight onto us when you're going, oh I'm really sorry, I didn't think, I'm really, really sorry. And we understand that feeling, and we appreciate how much you care, but it kind of puts us in the limelight a bit, and then we have to reassure you, oh no, it's okay, please don't worry. And that's kind of emotional labour on us that maybe doesn't need to be there. So simply say she, oh sorry, he, anyway, I was saying about what do you want for dinner, and just move on, and it will all be fine. We're not upset, we're not angry. Sometimes it might hurt someone a little bit. It might give them a beat, just a little pause there where they're hearing the wrong thing, and it's kind of jolting their brain back to something that maybe they don't want to think about at that moment. However, if you correct yourself, it makes them feel respected and allows them to move on quickly too. And like I say, we're not angry with you. We understand that it's hard to remember, and I myself mess up pronouns. When you're used to calling someone something for a really long time, and then they come out and you need to change what you call them. That's hard. That is hard. It's like changing someone's name. It just gets stuck in your brain, and that's understandable. So don't worry too much about it. Just say, oh sorry, and then move on. So here I'm going to go to my questions now. How can you ask about pronouns without offending? So one thing that's really nice, it's like a really nice ally move, is if you introduce yourself with your pronouns. It gives trans people a window to tell you. So rather than saying, hello, what's your name and pronouns because you look trans? Maybe avoid saying that. Instead, you could say, hi, my name is, and my pronouns are he, him. And what that does then is it allows the person to say, oh, hi, my name is, and I'm she, her. And you can imagine how easy that is, and how, and you might find that people disclose things to you that they wouldn't otherwise. So that's a good trick, and it's a nice, quick little way to do it without putting the spotlight on it. So I think that answers what if I walk into a room and I'm unsure of someone's pronouns. So that would be a nice way to deal with that. How do you advocate for trans or non-binary people and their pronouns to people who don't understand why pronouns are important? I appreciate this question because this is an ally of the community who's probably tried and failed to explain to someone before. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's really frustrating, and trans people deal with this every single day, trying to justify their existence, trying to explain why we matter and why our needs are important of your attention. So I appreciate for anyone who's tried, and I understand that it is a hard thing to do. Some people don't want to understand. Some people don't want to understand. And no matter what you say, they'll argue with you. Well, for now, they might be a lost cause, but please direct them to my YouTube channel. Some people are more willing to hear you. And what we can say about pronouns is something that I say at my talks is, imagine, right? This is what I would say to the person who doesn't understand why pronouns are important. Let's say they're a cis woman. Imagine that you're walking around, you're doing your day, you're going about your day, feeling normal, and then all of a sudden, everyone calls you he, and sir, and Mr. And you're on the phone and you're getting called sir, and you're in the bank and you're getting called Mr. So-and-so. Imagine how that would feel. Firstly, it'd feel really confusing, wouldn't it? You'd be like, oh, what's going on? What do I look like? You'd be looking in the mirror, you'd be like, do I look wrong? What's going on? And then after maybe I don't know, half an hour, you'd be getting really distressed and upset. So that is what it's like for a trans person. This is what's in our brain, and the world doesn't match. So, pronouns are a way to better align the world with what our brain is expecting. And that's something that I would use as an example for these people. Oh, excuse me. Would a trans man having a baby be referred to as a mum or dad? This is a question that I got on the community. So this is a very simple question. So it's whatever they want to be called. So there are some trans men who identify with being a mother. And there's some talk and some articles coming out at the moment that I've seen about how mothering is or shouldn't be a gendered term, and it's more of a way of being with children, and then fathering is its own way of being with children. Because I've definitely done some mothering in my journey, and I'm really proud of that, and also really grateful to experience that, because there's probably not a huge amount of men who've done mothering, but I certainly know lots of cis men who have mothered. But as I say, a trans man having a baby would be referred to as however they choose. So perhaps that when you meet the client at the contact, you might say, what are you planning your kids might call you? And then they'll tell you. daddy or dada, or mama, papa. There are all sorts of them, baba, loads of different names that might sit right with the person. I used to be mummy, and I've moved over to dada because that feels more comfortable for me. I would assume that if you've been told, that a man who's pregnant identifies as a binary man, I would probably be more on the assumption that they'd feel like daddy or father or whatever. But it's still just ask, and it's easier, isn't it? Yeah. And just while I'm on that subject, let me just add about partners as well. So something that might also happen is you might be caring for a trans masculine non-binary person or a cis woman who is pregnant but has a partner who is a trans man or woman. And if that's the case as well, it would be really respectful to include them in that conversation. So, what are you what are you going to be called by the children as the parent? So there are quite a few trans couples so both trans, so you've got a trans man carrying the baby and a trans woman as the partner, and the trans woman is going to be mum and the trans man is going to be dad, even though he is the gestating parent. That's another term, gestating parent, that the trans community uses. So a non-gendered way of actually avoiding the word pregnancy as well. Some trans masculine people struggle with that word. So yeah, that's the questions about pronouns, and I hope that helps a little bit, explains a bit about why it's so important, and yeah, thank you for trying. Thank you for trying to make the world a bit easier for us to navigate. Yeah, thanks.